Hey, Jon Lovitz, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
My pleasure.
Now, we are here talking about your upcoming show at the Hollywood Casino in Charlestown, West Virginia, still part of our DC listening radius here. So it's going to be on August 12th. What do we got?
The Hollywood Casino.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want to, bury any of your punchlines or spoil anything, but is there a way you could talk about, I don't know, what sort of topics do you cover in the current routine?
Oh my, just everything that's going on in the world, just basically, kind of everything, politics, and it's not really political, but a little, but, and all the stuff about words you can't say, and just all this, a lot about that, and social changes which, it's, to me, it's like, it's changing so much. Like in the 1960s, there was, they called it the generation gap between the parents and the kids. And it was just a massive change. And I feel like that's happening again today. And so there's stuff that's going on that I always assumed was, fact. And it was like, no. And it's just such a massive change, and so it's just talking about that in a funny way.
So it's a massive sea. You're saying
from my point of view,
a massive sea change in society.
Well, it is, don't you think? I mean,
absolutely, absolutely. And so you're gonna riff on that a little bit, have a little fun with that. Anything else? Not non-political. Anything personal life stuff?
Oh yeah, no. I talk about me a little. I make fun of myself. I play the piano. I sing silly songs. I cover pretty much everything. I'd say the show is like smart and silly and immature.
Well, that's what
basically me.
That's what we've come to love about your skits and your movies and everything over the years. Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see you out there for a fun night of comedy at the Hollywood Casino. Whenever I have someone on, I love to sort of remind everyone how you got into this comedy racket to begin with. I know you were born in LA in like 57, but do you remember like certain comedians or actors or anything that you admired growing up? Like who were some of the comedy legends?
Totally. Yeah. It was, I was 13 years old and I saw Woody Allen's, I didn't know who he was, his first movie, Take the Money and Run. And that's when I said, I want to be a comedian like Woody Allen. And then 3 years later, the movie about Lenny Bruce came out, starring Dustin Hoffman, called Lenny, and it was just great. So I went and bought Lenny Bruce's records and Woody Allen's records, and I used to do their routines in my dorm. And they had a talent night, and I would memorize their certain routines they had and jokes and do those. And then I wanted to be a stand-up. I went to UC Irvine, University of California at Irvine. And then after a drama major, but I said, after that, I'm going to do stand-up. And this guy teaching a stand-up workshop said, oh, they're not hiring stand-ups for sitcoms. Well, they were, but they weren't hiring him. I don't know. So I thought, oh, I guess I'll skip that step. And then I got Saturday Night Live, and Dennis Miller was like, you could be a stand-up. And then I became friends with him and Dana Carvey. They were two of the best stand-ups. You could be a stand-up. And I met Robin Williams actually when I was in college, but he was on the show. I think, you think I could be a stand-up? He's like, yes. And he was the biggest one. And Eddie Murphy befriended me. And I said, do you think I could be a stand-up? He's like, yes. So I had 4 of the best stand-ups telling me I could do it. But I would get up and I would just be so nervous. My heart would be pounding in my chest. So I would try stuff over the years, but about 20 years ago, I decided I really wanted to do it. And so I went to the Laugh Factory, and the owner, Jamie Masada, put me up on stage, and then he let me have an hour show, and I spent two years working on it, getting an act together. And I kind of had a head start because normally it takes like 10 years, but I kind of had a head start because I already knew. I go, who am I going to, you go, who are you going to be on stage? And I go, well, you have your comic side of you. I go, oh, like on talk shows, I go, well, I've already developed that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that cuts out 5 years. And then Dana Carvey gave me great tips. He goes, have fun on stage, do a short setup, and then stay on topic. There's an art to it. And so that helped. That saved another 2 years. You know what I mean? So tips like that really helped. And I would host shows with guys from Saturday Night Live and then co-headline, and then after about 2 years, I headlined on my own. So I worked my way up, and now it's 20 years later. I mean, I'm a lot better than I was.
I would hope so.
When I started, no, I know what I'm doing now, but
yeah, I would hope so.
it's really fun.
Do any of us really know what we're doing, or we're just making it up as we go?
I think so, but the fun part is to just always try to get better,
right,
and improve, and then it stays enjoyable. But if you walk through a show, then it stops being fun,
Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, to have the vote of confidence of Robin Williams and Eddie Murphy and Dana Carvey, all the legends in the beginning, I'm sure that was a boost.
It's huge. Well,
take me into some of your, a lot of our listeners love all of your SNL stuff. And we'd be here all day if we mentioned all of them, but I want to highlight a couple that people will remember. Tell me about Tommy Flanagan, the pathological liar anonymous, that famous line. Yeah, that's the ticket. Where'd you come up with that character?
It's from old movies in the 30s, like The Thin Man,
I love that movie.
And I was in the Groundlings Theater, which is an improv and theater group, and I wanted to. I loved old movies, so I go, I wish I could play that part of that part. So I would just, kind of imitate that character, but then create a whole comic idea behind it. But the liar started a friend of mine, a girl I liked, and she goes, I like a guy with a fat wallet. And I go, well, my dad just had 15 oil wells come in. And then I did it. They had a panel. They had 6 of us on stage, and you say your name and what you do. So mine was like, hello, I'm Tommy Flanagan. His name's Flanagan, but he even lies about that.
You're right. He says Flanagan.
Flanagan. And I'm a member of Pathological Liars Anonymous. In fact, I'm the president of that organization. So I thought of, if Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're in that, it's not funny at all. But I thought, what if there was a Pathological Liars Anonymous? Because you hear in AA, people get up and they say, I'm Bob, and here's my story.
Right.
So I go, well, what if a Pathological Liars Anonymous and guy gets up to tell a story? I go, well, he would just start lying about it. And then it just made me laugh. And then I wrote it as a monologue in the Groundlings, and then we got picked to do it on the Tonight Show. And it was March 28th, 1985, and that kicked off everything.
Oh, absolutely. There was Master Thespian, Hanukkah Harry, the Devil. There were so many good skits on SNL. But remind a lot of our listeners, at least my age, in addition to SNL, will probably remember.
What is your age?
Do you want to know? I was born in 84, so I'm coming up on 38 this fall. So yeah, I know. Whippersnapper. Now I'm getting up there now. But
when I started Saturday Night Live, you were 1.
Yeah, and I was cracking up. No, see, that's a Tommy Flanagan line. I was
no, baby. Well, I can make babies laugh.
You made us laugh. See, I remember you doing stuff on The Simpsons and pivoting that into The Critic. Remind us just how fun it was to work on that, and because it was some Simpsons.
Well, I did
some writers that
I did 4 shows, and then that summer the movie A League of Their Own came out.
Right.
And it was a big hit. So I started getting offers, and so Jim Brooks went to Al Jean and Mike Reese, who created this, who ran The Simpsons, and said, they go, what do you want to do? They want to do a show. They said they wanted to do a show with me, and it was going to be a sitcom, and then they changed it to animation, and so they created the character, but they wrote it for me. And I remember going in to meet them, and I said, well, I go, what's the character? And Al goes, you. And I go, okay, is this the character? And I just went, hello. And they go, yes. I go, is this the character? What? They go, yes. I go, oh man, this is the easiest job. This is me. But you got to make the scenes work. I learned in voiceovers, the easy part is, you don't have to learn your lines. You have the scene on like a music stand, and you can wear whatever you want. Like I'm wearing tennis clothes now. It's very comfortable. But to be effective, you still have to really act the scene out and do everything that you would do. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Because it doesn't come off in your voice. And that show was it was just genuinely. I read the script I wanted to see a script and I read it and I laughed out loud like 10 times. And that never happens. Most of the comedy scripts you read, they're just not that funny.
Yeah.
And this thing though was hilarious.
That's a good sign when you laugh 10 times.
Oh yeah. It was hysterically funny, I thought. So, I was honored that they created a whole show for me,
That's very cool. And as for, you mentioned a League of Their Own, which I think they're actually rebooting as a TV series like next week or something.
On Amazon, yeah.
Amazon, yeah. But you mentioned that you were also with Hanks in Big, and then honestly, it seemed like all from the 80s and 90s, almost you could pick.
Well, Penny Marshall befriended me. I met her. The very first thing I ever taped for Saturday Night Live was a short film. It was in Central Park, and Madonna was the host. And she's supposed to be driving along her car, like in the country at night, and she keeps hearing this noise from her hood, and she opens it up, and I jump out and jump on her. That was the premise of the film. And so we broke for, well, it's 2:30 in the morning, lunch, get something to eat. And I sat across, and Penny was there, and she just befriended me from day one. And she was just wonderful to me. And she put me in Jumpin' Jack Flash and Big. And then A League of Their Own was originally supposed to be with Jim Belushi in the Tom Hanks role, and David Anspach, who directed Hoosiers, and Rudy was supposed to direct it. But my part, Lowell Gans and Bob Lou Mandel, they wrote the script. They wrote it for me, and so I was going to be in it. And then it didn't happen. Then a year later, Penny was directing it, and I got the part. But every time I see them, Bob Lou's like, we wrote that for you. We've never written that part for an actor before or since. We wrote it for you, And I remember reading that script and going, I have to play this part. This is hysterical.
Yeah, that's got to be a good feeling that they wrote it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So honor, they wrote on Happy Days, they wrote the movie Splash and Parenthood. I mean, they had a million hits and great writers.
Oh, yeah. And a little trivia. We got to tell our listeners that with Big and A League of Their Own, I believe Penny Marshall became the first woman director to gross 100 million twice, I think. So those two put her on the map. You had a role that was hilarious. And honestly, for a while there in the 80s or 90s, you could pick any successful comedy, and you, sir, usually showed up in some way. Like I remember you would show up in Three Amigos, Coneheads, City Slickers 2, Wedding Singer. I mean,
Coneheads and Three Amigos. Lorne Michaels produced those, so he put me in those, which was great. And then what was the other one? Oh, City Slickers. That's when, after A League of Their Own came out, people were mad at me, my friends, because they're going, Lovitz is getting everything, But because of that heat, I had The Critic, and I had City Slickers, and the movie North that Rob Reiner directed.
Yep.
It didn't do well, but it was so much fun, and what a great cast. And that was Castle Rock Pictures. Then they hired me for City Slickers, and and playing Billy Crystal's brother was great. He was great to me, and a great guy. I love doing that, and being in a movie with him and Jack Palance. I mean, it was fantastic. A great part. I'd say League of Their Own was probably if people go, what are your best movies? Well, as far as doing a character, I'd say League of Their Own. And then as far as like kind of just playing yourself, like not doing a character, but it was a City Slickers. And it's interesting because I understood that character because he would blame everybody for his failings, and he's always a victim. And I remember I used to kind of be like that. I was like that. And then when I turned that mentality around, that's when I started succeeding.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. So you flipped it, and then you noticed it paid off. Well, what? You listed, and we both listed, the more famous comedies, but I have a little underrated one that, wasn't as big as those, but I just crack up every time I saw it. It was that spoof. You might know what I'm going to say. It was that spoof movie, Loaded Weapon 1. It was a spoof of the Lethal Weapon movies. And the Lethal Weapon, the sequels had like the Joe Pesci sort of sidekick role, but I guess you fill that slot in a way in the Loaded Weapon one, Emilio Estevez and Samuel Jackson.
Jeffrey Boehm was the screenwriter, wrote those movies, and I ran into him, and And he said, you know, I wrote that part for you. Now, Joe, I just saw Joe recently.
Joe Pesci.
Joe made it his own. And when he goes, okay, you know, that wasn't in the script. He met some kid that did that, and he goes, I want to do that in the movie. He goes, here's how, I'm not going to read. I just saw him. He said, I'm not going to read for you, Richard Donner, but here's how I'll play the part. Okay, you know, he did like that, and they hired him, and he was great in it. So, but Loaded Weapon, I was actually spoofing the Joe Pesci part, and I was spoofing a role that was originally written for me.
Oh, okay.
And I remember Joel Silver produced it, and Richard Donner, you know, great director. And he goes, well, you're going to have to audition, and, you know, it's a third lead and big actor. I go, okay. And then I never heard anything, you know. No, that happens a lot. You know, what can you do?
Sure. Well, thanks for that trivia that it was originally written for you, and then Joe got it, and then you kind of come full circle spoofing it. But
yeah,
I invite our listeners to check it out, because I think it's right up. You know, everyone talks about the Mel Brooks movies. Obviously, they're hilarious, and you know, the Airplane and the other Austin Powers. There's great spoof movies, but Loaded Weapon one, man,
it stars Sam Jackson and Emilio Estevez. They were really great to work with, you know. And I was excited to work with both of them. They're both great actors, you know.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that movie was it's like an airplane movie, you know, like the Airplane, the Zucker Brothers movie.
Yeah, exactly. Naked Gun. That's sort of like every line is just some kind of a spoof off the wall thing.
I added it was so stupid. I was so dumb because Amelia, we're looking at this boat, and I added this line. I go, look at that engine. Look at the way there's kind of like a sheen on it. I go, yeah, but you see the sheen. You know,
yeah, of course, because he is a Sheen.
Joke kid, because he's
the Sheen family. Yeah, that's really good. It was something about that era. It could be the stupidest thing. I mean, even Tom Arnold did The Stupids, and I'm still cracking up. You know, I don't know. There's something about that era of comedy that I love, and I sort of miss it. I don't know if they really do spoofs like that anymore. But bring it back, sir. Bring it back. Well, cool. And anything more? I mean, we covered the 80s and 90s pretty good. Anything, you know, 21st century, anything newer, any roles that you were particularly proud of, either TV or film?
I've had some great parts. The movie Happiness that Todd Solondz directed. I'm only in the opening scene, but it was that was a great part. It was only one day, but it's a scene where I play a guy being dumped by a girl, and it's probably in his mind he's being dumped. It's probably their second date. In his mind, it's a relationship, and
yeah, a long term.
But it was a really hard scene to do. It was challenging because I've been dumped, and it's hard. You know, and someone says something to you, and then we can't go on. And then 3 days later, you go, I should have said that, this and this, you know. Well, that's the scene where the guy, she says, I don't think we should see each other anymore. And I go, okay. And then it just turns, and you say all the things he wrote that you want to say right then. And so it was very satisfying.
Yeah,
but it was a tough scene because he wrote it so great, and it was the scene. It's like funny, it's sad, it's kind of a little scary. The guy goes a little nutty. It had like everything in this one scene.
Right. It showed you.
Todd was great to work with. He's really, really smart, and so it was fun to work with him on that movie. And he wrote it and directed it, and
it showed you could do a little more range, a little more dark comedy, a little scary, like you said.
Well, I can do it. The thing people don't understand about comedy. I had this great teacher, Ralph Tony Barr, is called Acting for the Camera. He wrote a book about it. And he had this guy, Ralph Levy, teaches comedy one summer. And Ralph used to produce and direct the Jack Benny Show and the Burns and Allen Show.
Yeah.
And he said, look, when you do comedy, he goes, I did a scene for him once. He goes, and I was a drama major at UC Irvine, University of California, Irvine. He goes, well, where's all the stuff you learned at Irvine? I said, what do you mean it's the same? He goes, of course it's the same. Yeah. And then he said, look, when you do comedy scenes, you do all the things you do in drama, and then you add the comedy on top of it.
Right.
And then it's funny as the actor, but the character you're playing is oblivious,
Right. And that's what makes it funny.
Because you want the audience to laugh. Right. And so that's how you do it. That's how I do it. And so when people go, can you do drama? I go, well, of course. I go, I'm going out of my way to be funny.
Yeah, exactly. You're already doing the drama. You're putting the comedy on top of it.
Right.
It really bugged me that I feel like comedians come awards time, they don't get the love, the acclaim as drama.
It's funny, isn't it? Because everyone says all the dramatic actors say, "Oh, I can't do comedy. It's so hard, can you do drama?" I'm like, yeah, it's not hard. I mean, it is hard to be a great actor. I would, a great comedian, a great actor, and there's like, 5, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about me. So it is hard to be very hard to do, but they always say how comedy is so much harder, right? But then they never, right?
They don't award it. Yeah.
No, because it's not serious. You're not being serious.
Well, what was it?
And then you go, well, what do you mean I'm not being serious? I'm serious about my work. It's just stupid because you're trying to make somebody laugh, or you're trying to get an emotion out of them. So you make them laugh, you make them cry, you scare them, whatever it is, And so I don't think one is better than the other. No. But the problem is with comedy is you need to have a sense of humor. So if you don't have one, you can't do it.
Right, exactly. Well, and it almost, when you look back over history, it's almost hypocritical, this whole acclaiming drama versus comedy, because in hindsight, the Academy, the American Film Institute, whatever you want to call it, in hindsight, they hold up the Chaplins and the Marx Brothers and the Buster Keatons, but those people weren't winning Oscars. They had to get a Lifetime Achievement
Right.
Award.
They don't award they don't award the comedies like, say, the Oscars.
Right.
But who do they hire to host it?
And who gets slapped?
Yeah.
That was insane this year. But I like that Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly and someone else did a whole thing at the Oscars one year. They were like, "Oh, no comedians at the Oscars." It was really funny. But anyway, I just wanted to hold up the art of
jealous.
comedy.
That's the thing. They want to. I know a lot of these people, and they're kind of not the great actors. If you notice this, when I say the great actors, like Marlon Brando or Al Pacino or Jack Nicholson or Robert De Niro,
Daniel Day-Lewis,
they have great senses of humor. There's a lot of comedy in their work.
Sure.
But there's the people below that have no sense of humor. So they're arrogant. So they're like, well, you do that silly stuff. You're not a serious actor.
Yeah. Right.
Which is absurd. I go, really? Let's do a scene together. I go, I'll run circles around you.
Of course.
You won't even know what's happening.
Right. You pull in Jim Carrey and he could run dramatic circles around anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Jim Carrey, I learned something from him. He did when he did Ace Ventura. By the way, they offered that movie to everybody.
And no one wanted it.
And I remember reading it.
You turned it down?
Yeah, it wasn't funny. And then Jim did it. And Jim I know for 12 years before he hit Ace Ventura.
Sure.
But or in Living Color. But I said, first of all, I said, why did you do it? Because I saw it. It wasn't funny, the script. He goes, I know. I go, so why did you do it? He goes, well, I figured I'd work on it and rewrite it. Like, let me rewrite it for 3 weeks to fit my humor. And then if I like the script after that, I'll do it. And I went, oh, that was smart.
Exactly. He made it.
But what he does in that movie, which is really interesting, is there's one scene, he's being over the top and big and doing all that. And it's hilarious.
Talking out of his butt.
Yeah. But there's one scene where it's him and Courtney Cox, and he's not doing any of that. He just kind of stops and goes, she goes, why do you do it? Or she says something, and he just kind of goes, yeah, I just, I did this and this. And he's very serious, And then you go, oh, so this other guy is like, it's a guy who's trying to has had a tough life or sad, and he's trying to have fun with his life. You know what I mean? So then you buy everything else.
Right.
It was a great move to do, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And the line that the line that gets me every time is when he knocks on the door and gets a shotgun in his face. He goes, "Hi, I'm looking for Ray Finkel and a clean pair of shorts."
Yeah, he's hysterical, Jim Carrey.
Oh,
and a very, very, very nice guy. And what a talented artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that because I like play piano. Okay, you know, and I like to sing. I have a nice voice,
Yeah.
but I can't paint or draw at all. And there's so many actors that are great.
Yeah.
At drawing. I just saw a thing with Johnny Depp. Just sold 4 paintings. Did you see those?
No.
Online, yeah. And that one is of, I think it's Al Pacino and Marilyn Monroe and some, but they're paintings.
Yeah.
But you look at it, it almost looks like a photograph. But they're paintings, and I go, man, that guy's good. I mean, he's great. It's like, I don't understand how someone can have that much talent. Johnny Depp's just naturally talented. You know, he didn't want to be an actor. He was a musician, and I did a movie with Nicolas Cage, Trapped in Paradise, and Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
And Nicolas said, you know, he's one of my good friends. He goes, I got him started as an actor. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I said to him, you should be an actor. And I introduced him to my agent. And the first thing he auditioned for was 21 Jump Street, and he got it.
Oh, wow.
Is that crazy?
Wow. And that was his first TV series. I know he did Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, was an early movie role. And then, of course, Edward Scissorhands and the rest.
Yeah, but that was his first job.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I mean, he's you know, he's doing concerts with Jeff Beck on that level. I mean, Jeff Beck's not versatile. Coming on, you know, if he couldn't really play and do all that stuff, he's not going to be on stage with a guy like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's amazingly talented. It's crazy.
Do you have any like side hobbies? Not painting, maybe not, but what does Jon Lovitz
playing the piano and singing? I like to sing. And so
yeah,
I've gotten to sing like the national anthem at Dodger Stadium a few times, and
oh, nice.
The tennis, the US Open, and I got to sing at Carnegie Hall, and I got to sing on an album with a friend, got me the job with Robbie Williams, you know, from England, and we got to do a show at the Royal Albert Hall.
Cool.
And but I've been really working on my singing lately and I'm putting together a show where I sing, and it's like I'm funny and I sing.
Right.
The great band. This guy Randy Waldman, he's Barbra Streisand's personal piano player, and he's one of the best in the industry. And so Kenny G, I'm friends with, and Kenny introduced him to me. So I'm working with Randy, and the guy's like a genius piano player, you know. He's
right.
really high level. So I got to work on my singing and bring it up, you know.
Where did your singing?
I didn't know how to do stand up, but I liked it. So, you know, I realized if you put in the time, that's what I realized. If you put in the time if you're willing to do what you have to do and put in the time to work on something and just keep trying to get better, you know, you can pretty much do almost anything that you want.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't doubt it.
And so I realized I did stand up, which is it's not acting. It is, but it isn't. It's very different. I don't know how to explain it. It's similar and different, but it's acting. It's a scene between you and the other actor. Stand up, it's between you and the audience, and you're the only one talking. And someone said, Jerry Seinfeld said it, like in the beginning, a stand up will write their act, and then they'll deliver it like an actor doing a monologue. And he said I'm sorry. This will be gone by the time I do the show.
I can cut that out of the radio piece. Don't worry.
Okay. And Jerry said it's not a monologue. It's a dialogue between you and the audience. And I remember thinking, how can it be a dialogue? I'm the only one talking. But it's kind of like I'm talking to you now, and you're like shaking your head, going, yeah. Right? It's that.
It's that. So
you have to deliver it in a way that the audience is following you, and they're with, you know, they're not losing track of whatever you're talking about. And it's very interesting. And then you'll like get to a punchline, and all of a sudden you got to swallow and right into the punchline. And then she said, no, right? That was the joke. And then she said, no. They're like, what? Damn it. I just worked for a minute building that joke up.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's fun. When you get in the rhythm and just golfs and you go, I learned you go, get out of your own way. Like just go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
And the more you need the audience, you need them.
Yeah.
The more they're into it, it gets you excited, and you're more into it, and it just feeds off each other. It's great.
Oh yeah, it's symbiotic, sir.
Yeah.
Well, real quick,
That's the word.
There you go. We had to throw in the $10 word. Before we go, real quick, you mentioned Jerry Seinfeld. I love the episode that you did of Seinfeld. What was it? The scofflaw or whatever? You played Gary Fogel. You were the you faked? It turns out you faked.
Yeah, Larry David. It's funny that week that I shot that show. I also shot Friends, and Friends had just started, and Lisa Kudrow, her brother David we became best friends when we were 11 years old. So I grew in Tarzana, California. So I grew up with her family, her parents. David's like my brother, and Lisa and her other sister, Helene, like my sisters. I grew up with their family, and their parents like my other parents. I was always there. I've known Lisa since she's like 5, and but anyway, and then I done a movie with Courtney Cox, Mr. Destiny, in like 1988. So now it's 1994. And they called me, both of them said, would I guest star in there? They have a new show called Friends, would I do it? And it wasn't a big hit. It had just started.
New show called Friends.
Yeah, so I did it. And then I was supposed to shoot it on a Monday. And the day before, David called me, and he said, hey, there's this part I'd like to ask you to do on Seinfeld. What is it? He goes, well, you play a guy who has cancer and everybody's really nice to you. And then you find out that you don't have cancer, but you don't tell anybody. You pretend you still have it because everyone's being so nice to you and you like it.
Yeah.
And I just started laughing. I go, well, that's like the sickest, funniest thing I ever heard. Do that. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. But I go, I've got to do Friends, Monday. Can I come in like Tuesday and Wednesday? He goes, all right. So I did both of those. I did think Friends on a Monday and Seinfeld on a Wednesday.
Wow.
That was a fun week.
But
by the time Friends, they were treating me like I was their first known guest star.
Right.
And so they really treated me like I was doing them a favor. And they were, except for Courtney, all the other actors, they were totally unknown. Totally. Except for Courtney. And so, oh my God. Quiet. It's my dog. Come here. I'll introduce you. It's my dog. He gets jealous when I do these interviews.
I think your dog's favorite show is Friends and Seinfeld.
This is Jerry Bruckheimer III. Jerry, come here.
Jerry Bruckheimer is the dog's name?
Well, no. Jerry Bruckheimer III.
Oh, the third. I got to get it right. Hi, Jerry Bruckheimer III. What kind of dog? He's
a teacup Great Dane.
A teacup Great Dane. Well, let's ask him a question. Hey, Jerry Bruckheimer III, how is Jon Lovitz as a doggy daddy?
Do you like me? That's a yes.
I don't know if that was a sneeze or a snorter, but I think that was an
no, my friends, they're always going, you spoil that dog. I go, why? Because I have a bed for him in my car, and I take him on trips, and
oh yeah,
it's nice to him. He's a rescue dog, but he was a puppy when I got him.
Oh yeah, my wife and I spoil our dog too, so it's okay.
Here, watch.
Spoil him. What are you doing?
Sitting next to me right here. I go, you want to say hi? He usually does. He always does. Then
if I can get mine. Liberty, come. I think the dog's in the other room. But nice to meet you, Jerry Bruckheimer III. Liberty, come here. We're gonna meet the dog.
I had a cat, was Jerry.
Here we go. Say hi to Jerry Bruckheimer. This is Liberty. Hey, Jerry Bruck. Hey, look, a doggy. Liberty, look, a doggy. I don't think she understands Zoom. So Jon Lovitz's dog has met my dog. There you
Jerry,
go.
Look.
I don't think they understand screens. Can you see the doggy? All right. Well, Thanks for indulging on that one. Zoom is going to kick us off in 3 minutes. So let's bring it full circle. Jon Lovitz coming to Hollywood Casino. Why should they come? Talk to our listeners. Tell them to come on out.
Well, you should, if you like comedy shows, you should come to the show. And as far as, the show's rated R, it's 21 and up, you can say whatever. And I always say, people go, what if someone's offended? I go, look, if you don't have the ability to laugh at yourself, you shouldn't go to the show. Right. It's that simple. I make fun of myself. That's my job, and people always go, do you change your act because of where you are? I go, well, no, how can I, it's a room full of strangers. I don't know what someone's going to like and not like, I just funny the way I'm funny.
If you start playing that game and trying to tinker it based on the town or the audience, and you've already lost. You just got to stay true to the comedy.
Yeah,
they like it or not.
And it's a comedy show. It's your job to make fun of everything.
Right. Equal opportunity offender. but anyway, right. Yeah.
Well, it's just not offender. It's just that's your job, Yeah. And every comedian is presenting their sense of humor.
Right.
You know what I mean? But so that's what you do, So then if people say, oh, you made a joke, but you meant it, you go, well, yeah, I meant it, but I meant it in a humorous way.
Yeah.
You say things in a serious way. Right. Everyone has their point of view,
Right.
And some of the stuff I say is so ridiculous. It's funny, but it would be like Loaded Weapon, if you saw that movie and goes, so when they shot you and you died, you go, well, I didn't really die. You go, no, I saw it. They put your body back. It's like going to a comedy show going, well, when you said this, and you were joking, but you weren't. You go, no, it's not. I was joking and I wasn't. I was joking.
Right. It was a stand-up routine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you didn't go the drama route. I'll put a pin in this. We got less than a minute, but to quote.
No, you know what? Everyone says, why are you a comedian? And I just said, I really like making people laugh. I like making them laugh. I've always been like that, in high school and college, as the class clown. So and I had people come up in college, why aren't you ever serious? I go like, well, I don't know. What do you mean? You're never serious? I go, I don't know. That's just me. That's just how I am. And so one day they had this thing, Solar Energy Day, and at my school. So there was a notice on the drama bulletin board where they would post auditions and everything, looking for someone to write a sketch with this theme, comedy sketch. So I answered, I go, I'll do it. And I got 3 of my friends. I go, you guys want to do this? Yeah. So I wrote a funny sketch. We were bees or something. I don't know. But I wrote it. And so we go, and there's this, in front of the library, there's these giant steps. There's like 350 people. So anyway, we did the sketch and it was funny, it worked well. It was funny. And then this guy was next. He goes, can you introduce me as the, as the first stand-up comedian from Russia to perform in the United States? I said, sure. Who do I say? He goes, Nikki Lennon. I go, okay. So I went, okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce you, the first a stand-up comedian from Russia, the first stand-up to perform in the United States from Russia. Please welcome Nikki Lennon. And then the guy does like 45 minutes, and he was hysterically funny. And it was Robin Williams.
Oh my God.
And it was, but this was like 9 months before he was on Mork and Mindy.
Oh, so no one really knew.
No one knew who he was. I didn't know, but the guy was just, hysterical. So then afterward, he said, God, that was so great. I go, hey, did you happen to see my sketch? He goes, yeah. I go, what'd you think? He goes, well, at first you imitate other people, but then you find your own voice. I go, okay. And I said, by the way, do people ever come up to you and say, why aren't you ever serious? He goes, oh, yeah. I go, yeah, me too. what should I say? He goes, oh, just say, you know, why aren't you ever funny?
That's great. That's
I
great.
never forgot that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, perfect example. I'm glad you told that story.
Curmudgeons, you know, people that don't enjoy life and are curmudgeons, you know. They
Well,
don't like,
I'm glad you brought up
you're
that
a curmudgeon,
example.
don't go to a comedy show.
Right. It's great. I mean, it ties into what we were talking about because Robin Williams, he was like, all right, you want me to do a drama? Cool. I'll do Good Will Hunting and I'll win. But at the same time, he's like the funniest guy of all time. Rest in peace.
Well, he was like, I mean, he was, you know, a trained actor at Juilliard,
Yeah.
you know, and I had training, I'm not comparing, but I had training at, you know, UC Irvine, you know, Irvine, but all my teachers were, you know, from the two of them that had their Masters of Fine Arts from Yale, which was Juilliard and Yale considered the two best drama school at the time, and Yale, you know, is top school. And then I had William Needles, who was from the Stratford Festival in Canada, a founding member, and had a big influence on actors like Maggie Smith. Always says, "Oh, Bill Needles, he helped me." You know, he was my teacher and taught me Shakespeare, and so I had really, you know, top-notch teachers in training, and so, you know, you learn how to do it. You know, not just me, everybody, you know, that went there.
Oh, it absolutely. Well, I'm glad you told that story because it's perfect and it ties into it emerged as a running theme in our conversation of dramatic versus comedic actors. But I would always bring in I always quote, what is it, that line from in Make 'Em Laugh and Singing in the Rain. He says you could charm the critics or be quite elite or slip on a banana peel and the world's at your feet. Make 'em laugh, baby.
Yeah. But, well, like I said, the truly great actors are very funny, have a lot of humor in their work.
Yeah, you mentioned Jack Nicholson, and I was looking at the little Venetian blinds behind you. Look at the Venetian blinds behind you. Do you remember in Chinatown? He goes, and what is it? Burt Young is he's like, whoo, up against the and Nicholson goes, we don't pay to eat the blinds, Curly. You know, it could be a serious role, but he was funny. To your point. But anyway, all right, cool. Well, again, Jon Lovitz, thanks for making so much time for us here today. You're coming to
Thank you, my pleasure.
Hollywood Casino. Everyone come check them out.